Hello and welcome to the 5th video in the series of the Gauge 1 coach build. As you can see, I've now finished the wheels, and I've also added the axles as well. This is just a simple job. At the moment the axles are the right gauge, but you can see at the moment now they're still a little bit too long, so they just need trimming off. And what I shall also do is put a little thread on here, and we'll put a countersink in here to ultimately screw the axle on. So that's the next little job to do. Okay, what I've just done to start us off is I put a little countersunk on here. This is going to take a little M3 countersunk screw that's going to fit in here. It's just going to sit flush to hold our wheel onto the axle. Okay, as I mentioned before, we've got our countersink in here, and what we need to do is to get this axle stub the same length as our wheel. I can see here it's a little bit too long, so we need to shave a little bit off the end. Once we shave a little bit off the end, we will drill and tap it, and then we'll countersink it to the same depth as the wheel. So just leave the wheel on like that. The wheel's on, but it's loose. So using the wheel, I can get the stub length exactly the same depth as I want for the wheel. I'll show you what we mean. And the wheel's on against the shoulder of the axle. All we're doing now is just slicing off the excess material, just gently taking it down to the same depth as the wheel there. Once the tool touches the wheel, you'll see the wheel will stop revolving, so then I know that the stub is exactly the same thickness as the wheel. There, see, the wheel stopped now. So now we know everything is the same length. So we can take that off, pop that there, and we're just going to go in and just centre drill the end of the axle stub, ready for our thread for the countersunk screw to hold the wheel on. Just drill enough for the centre drill for our tapping drill to get a hold. This is our 3mm thread tapping drill. We're going to go in, need to go in a good 0.3, and that's not in straight. Okay, clear the swath, and that's now coming up to 0.3. That's plenty. We can now tap this with our 3mm thread. I'll just pop the centre in to support the handle on the tap. That keeps it all nice and square. A little bit of cutting paste on the tap as we start to tap this now. Let's gently screw that in. And feel that cutting the thread. Okay, that's the depth with our first thread, which is a taper tap. That just cuts the initial thread. Take that one out. There's a little bit of a taper on there just to ease the tapping and to get the thread cutting started. So we'll go in now and finish off with our plug tap. Right, I can feel by how tight that is. That's about as tight as I'm going to go. you get to get a feeling for these taps, how hard to turn them before they break. They're quite brittle. So we're at the bottom of the thread now. Take that off. What remains to do now is to put the countersink. What we've got to do now is countersink here, the same depth as our wheel. If you remember, our wheel here, it's got the countersink on it. So if we pop that wheel on the end, we just want to countersink this stub just to the same depth as a countersink on the wheel. Now, as I mentioned, this turning, this is nice, this is fairly free at the wheel. So as this chuck starts to turn, it's turning the wheel at the moment, and as I go in with the countersink, and once I get to the right depth, this wheel will stop. So that's how I know these are both, the countersinks are both at the right depth. So let's start it up. And you can see that wheel's just revolving there, just spinning around loosely. I'll start to put the countersink on now. As I get to the right depth, you see the wheel stop. There, it stopped. So I know now both countersinks are the same depth as each other. Take that off. One of the things I should have done is probably put the countersink on first, because I've now probably mangled up the end of that thread. I need to recut the start of the thread again, because the countersink's probably just needs to reset the end of this thread. I should have done this, the countersink first really. Doesn't matter, just give myself an extra job. So just recut that thread where the countersink went in. That's fine. Okay. Pop our wheel on the end. And get one of the screws. Screw this all in. There, that thread is now, that wheel is now fixed on there now. Just take that out. So that's the process. This wheel is now nicely held onto the end of that axle. And you've done the other end as well. So we've got the other end done. So we can screw those both ends on now. So here's our trailing arm, and we just try that out for size. All that needs now is just a little polish down. It's just slightly, just needs a little polish, and that's fine. That's what I was hoping to get it like that, so that's good. So we can just give this a little polish. Just a case of giving this a nice smoother finish. It only needs a slight polish just to get that a nice running fit. That's probably fine on that end. Just turn it round and we shall do the other end. We can try our wheels back on now. Nip the countersunk screw up. That's good. It's fine, nice and quick. Take this out and we can try that back in here, and that's a nice fit. That's fine. In fact, I'll probably just drop a little oil on there, a little drop of oil. Oh yeah, that's now running lovely. So that's what we have to do now for the other axles, is get them down, these stubs down to length, drill and tap them, and put the little countersink on for the screw that goes in here. And this is just to test now. Final test, put it on the rails, and that is running lovely and smooth. That's what we want. All we need to do now is just do the same procedure with the other wheels, and we're ready for the next stage of building the body to mount the wheels on.